Hi, I'm Andy, and I'd like to take a moment to share some of the wonderful experiences that I had with God working in my life. You know, He says that we should come to Him with all of our issues. That um, we can always count on God. We're not supposed to worry about things. Well, worry about these issues. You know, we're not about people who can destroy the body. We're about who can destroy the soul. This first one, we'll talk about finance things. You know, one of the things that we can all relate to is finance issues. Maybe not poverty, but money has a way of bringing problems with it every now and then. So, back when I was in Japan, uh, me and my wife, we had two cars. Right? We had just gotten her a new car because her first car had gotten into an accident, and we had to get it replaced. Now, around this time, my supervisor, he was moving to a different location, and so he was going to go to a dinner with some of his Japanese friends to wish him farewell. When he was doing this, he had already turned in his car, so he had no way to get in there. So I said, "Hey, yeah, you can borrow our car. Just drop it in this parking spot, and then when you get back." And so he went and returned the car, and this was in the middle of a very rainy night, like it was storming. And in the morning, when I wake up, I get a call from the police on the installation saying, "Hey, you need to report in to the police station." I was like, "I didn't do anything. What's going on?" I was like, "We can't tell you until you get here." I was like, "Oh." So I went to the police station, and they said, "Is this your car?" I was like, "Yeah, that's my wife's car. Did you know that it burned down last night?" I was like, "What do you mean it burned down last night?" I was like, "Yes, your car, it burned down, and the fire department had to put it out, but it melted." Obviously, it didn't completely melt. It wasn't just a skeletal frame, but yeah, a bunch of the car melted, and it actually had severely damaged the car that was parked next to it. Now, when this happened, I was very worried. My first thought actually wasn't even that. It was I went to call my supervisor and ask him if he was okay, and he would not answer the phone. I called him and called him and called him. I tried to go to the hotel he was supposed to be at. I could not get a hold of him, and I was freaking out. I'm like, did this guy die? Did the car blow up with him in it? What's going on? Eventually, he did get back to me, and he said, "Oh yeah, sorry, I slept in. My phone was turned off. No, yeah, I parked the car here. Everything was fine when I left it." And when I saw the car myself, because at this point I hadn't seen it, it was fused to the pavement. So now we have a destroyed car, which we need to replace, and we have another destroyed car next to it for a neighbor, which we also need to replace. And around this time, we had just gone through the Sabbath School Quarterly talking about tithe. And me and my wife were discussing, hey, we should probably start doing it. We should probably return tithe. There's disagreements on stuff people disagree on, right? Net versus growth, things like that. But that's neither here nor there. We agree now on where we're at, but we were like, okay, either way, we think we should tithe. And then now we have this big issue where we have a big need for money because we have to replace two cars. And so we prayed and we said, you know what? We're not going to let this stop us from returning tithe. If we stop, because this happened, what's the next thing we're allowed to stop it? So we returned our tithe. I started talking to the gentleman whose car our car had destroyed. And one of the first blessings was just in the person that we talked to. Now, he was very understanding, very calm. He was very concerned about our health as well. And he said, you know what? I can see that you guys didn't do anything negligent. A car just blew up, and insurance was not helping either one of us. His insurance said, no, we're not going to cover it because it has nothing to do with you. And my insurance, well, it was very frustrating, but also kind of comedic looking back. My insurance said, if we were in the car when it had caught fire, they would cover it because we would have been operating the vehicle. But because we were not in the car when it blew up, they were not going to cover it, which was so baffling to me. But basically, insurance isn't going to cover either one of us. So we have to cover it completely out of our pocket. Now, about a week or two later, this gentleman, he gave me a thing saying, all right, this is how much you pay for the car, this damage, just give me $1,000. I was like, okay, I can do that. Thank you for being so generous. And when we looked at a car to replace my wife's, I think it was about $2,000. And so it's like, okay, we need about $3,000 to cover these things that just happened. And out of the blue, I got a check in the mail from a government lawsuit that happened against a university that I used to go to. When I say used to go to, I went to like one class. And as a result of this lawsuit, they gave me $1,000 that I didn't even know was happening. So I was like, okay, free check in the mail. 1 out of 3,000 taken care of. And then next thing that happened was my supervisor, he had already left. He was in another country. I think he was in Germany. And he gives me a call and he says, hey, I've been feeling really bad. I know I didn't. I told him, I don't blame you at all. I'm glad you survived. I feel bad that this happened after I borrowed the car. And through me trying to say no, eventually I said, you know what? Okay, I will accept whatever you want to give me. I'm not going to put a price because I already don't want to accept the money. And he gave me another $1,000, and I was like, 2 out of $3,000 is good. I wasn't necessarily worrying too much about it, but I was like, seeing God work. And this is all happening in the span of about 2 days, I think. And finally, we got a bonus. I honestly can't fully remember what the bonus was, but I got a random military bonus that came in for that last $1,000. And so at the end of this, about in the span of a week, God manifested $3,000 from all these random places. And it's just a reminder of, when we return to God what He rightfully deserves, He returns so much more. As it says in the Bible, if you will return to me, He makes our storehouses overflow. And at that point, our storehouse was overflowing. And it was a wonderful experience. Another small experience, which was just, it was an amazing experience that we had on a trip back in California when I was visiting my family, but I was on a day trip with my mom and my wife. So we had been having some struggles with trying to find restaurants that we could all eat because we had just switched to eating vegetarian, and we're trying to find things that were accommodating all of us. When we were going out, we decided, let's go to the mall and get a dress for my wife. There was a store we went to, and we walk into the store, and there's these two gentlemen at the counter talking to each other. And a couple minutes after we're looking around the store, one of the gentlemen comes up, and he just says, hey, you guys know Jesus? We said, yeah, we know Jesus. He's like, I could just see it on you. You guys looked so happy when you're coming. I could just see Jesus all around you. Like, thank you. Not gonna lie, felt a bit uncomfortable, but I was like, I'm glad that we put off a Christ-like appearance. And this was a very strange thing. So I'm talking to this man, and there's some conversations going various different ways. He's talking about the Apocrypha, and then sometimes he's talking about businesses and like dog breeding, random stuff. In the middle of a conversation, he just asked me, do you know what day the Sabbath is? And I was like, it's the seventh day. And it just happened to be, I was wearing a shirt underneath, because I had this graphic tee, and it said, it was a Sabbath shirt. Basically said, remember the Sabbath, keep it holy. And I was like, yeah, I got a shirt right here. It says right here. He's like, Amen. You know, he's like people, all this stuff Sunday. What? Now, what was interesting is I found out this man was a uh, he is the leader of a Sunday keeping evangelist movement. Well, I don't want to say Sunday keeping. I don't know if he goes to church on Sunday, but it was an evangelism organization that is aligned with another Protestant denomination that just keeps Sunday instead of Saturday. And so I was very confused. I was like, this is a strange guy to be telling me this. But yes, that was very interesting. And I was talking to him, the owner who we had met once more when we got addressed there before. And we were talking about, those last days, things, this stuff's going on. And we were able to give a small little sermonette to him there. It was a nice experience. After that, we decided, we got to get some food. There's no food in the mall that we can all eat. So we went to a restaurant, and as we walked in, so the guy that I was talking to, he was friends with the owner, who just happened to be coming from another state, and they were just talking. Now we go to this restaurant, and there's another man who walks up, and he just says, "Oh, hey, are you here for the food mob or something that I don't know what he said? I know what he said at the time, I just forget it." And I was like, "No, we just came to get some vegetarian food." And he's like, "Oh, really? I don't know why. I just thought you guys were Adventists for some reason." We're like, "We are." I was like, "Oh, yeah." And so we sat down. We're having a chat. He's talking about this stuff. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm friends with the owner. We're just hanging out and all that." We're like, so we've run into two different random shop owners who have random alignment with the Sabbath or the SDA church. Now, mind you, my mom is not a member of this church, and we've been obviously trying to share with her. And so this felt like such a blessing, being able to share with my mom, like, look at this movement happening everywhere. Look at these people, all these things. So it was a blessing to be able to share this with her, and she was just, gobstruck after this, being like, "Oh wow, that's amazing." They saw this, and it's amazing, these things where God provides all these opportunities before we even know it, right? And the more that we try and emulate Christ, the more these opportunities will show up, and the more we will have chances to share His witness. These were just two small things that happened. Well, I say small, two short things that happened in my life, me and my wife, that help strengthen our faith in God, that He provides, that He wants us to have opportunities to be co-laborers with Him in this work on earth. And I just want to say that God is a very active person on this earth, and He will be as active with us as we allow Him to be. And so take every opportunity you can to represent Him, maybe not in saying something, maybe in just changing yourself personally to follow His lessons and His principles. And I just want to leave you with that. Pray if this convicted you of anything, or give you any thoughts about any of these types of events, whether it's tithe or just how you dress or interact with people out in the streets. And pray that this is a blessing to you. Thank you.